Hartland Point Lighthouse was built in 1874. The light was a group white flash 6 every 15 seconds. The foghorn, when I visited, was a nautiphone, electric, one blast every 60 seconds. The place was automated in 1984. The lighthouse was built with accommodation for 4 keepers and their families, and it was also protected, the area in front of the lighthouse, by a 30 metres, roughly 100 foot long seawall. This was built in 1925 to prevent further erosion. The structure you see behind this lighthouse is a water catchment area. As on most lighthouses, water is treated as precious. Water has always been a precious commodity on a lighthouse, especially out to sea. As in the days before flush toilets and the rest appeared on these lighthouses, you used an Elson bucket, and water that you'd used to do the washing up was placed in a bucket afterwards, never thrown away, and then eventually it would make its way up to the top of the lighthouse where the Elson bucket was kept, and that was used to flush the toilet. The road down to the lighthouse is now closed to traffic. It has a gate at the top and it suffers from frequent rockfalls, so it's in a very bad state. This building no longer looks like it did when it was one great big structure before they took it down to make a helipad. So you get some sort of idea with the room layouts how it used to be, but nowadays it's just done out for visiting mechanics, electricians, technicians, that sort of thing, that are just there to service the place. A sad footnote to this lens that you see in front of you was in 2022. The lens had been removed and was in storage in Ilfracombe. Whilst in storage, it was targeted by thieves and stolen. The whereabouts of this lens is now, well, anybody's guess. The fear is that it's been broken up just for the metal, the phosphor bronze that is quite a big portion of the lens, the construction of it, and the actual lens itself either dumped, destroyed or sold off in pieces, because this isn't a lens that you could sell on the open or black market as such. It was said that this lens was one of only 3 of its type in the world. So as I said, the fear is it's gone forever.
Sent to Bideford Bar light. That was very unusual light, that was. There was no, there's only 2 keepers there, and you were no super's quarters. You had to lodge with one of the keepers. You were either doing this, I can't think whether it was sick duty or holiday duty, I can't remember now. But the road ended before you got to the lighthouse, some distance away, and you couldn't see the lighthouse. You had to walk over the dunes to get to the light. Yeah. And the only way you really found your way to the light was follow the telephone posts. And at night time, if you went out and you came back at night, you had to shine your light on the telephone wires, because you never saw the light until you got on top of the last dune. Mm. Yeah.
Can you describe what the lighthouse looked like?
Well, it was like a just wooden tower, you know, sand everywhere. That was a PVB, and that was an occulting light. The light's on all the time. This shutter comes down over the top, and for so many seconds, and up for so many seconds. Yeah.
Was that a clockwork shutter?
Oh yes. You had to keep an eye open for those things, because sometimes they would stick, you know. The occulting light, the light is on much longer than it is shut off. You had the light on, the light might be on for, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds or so, or perhaps longer, and then the shutter would just come down for a second or two, so it gave you plenty of time to prick out, you know. Mm.
And you had another light there as well, didn't you?
Yes, there was a low light that was a few hundred yards away, which had to be changed from red to white and white to red at half flood or half ebb at night time, and the ball by the low light had to be raised or lowered according to half flood or half ebb, you know, the tide. Yeah.
I'm Kenneth Chapman, Principal Keeper of Bull Point Lighthouse.
Where were you born?
I was born in Cornwall.
And what on earth made you become a lighthouse keeper in the first place?
Well, I was brought up very near lighthouses in Cornwall. I suppose it was just the natural thing to do.
And what lighthouses have you been on?
Well, I've actually worked on 29 different lighthouses.
Yeah.
Some for a short period of time and some for many years.
And what's the ones you've been on, roughly?
I've been on the Wolf Rock, Round Island, Skocum, the Great Ormes, the Needles, Pendine, twice, and this one, Bull Point.
And this is the one you've been on the longest stretch, is it?
It is now, yes, yes.
This is the front door we've just come in, and you straight away come into a little cloakroom area, toilet and sink, and then this room over here is the kitchen come living area for visiting personnel, visiting keepers on relief duty, stuff like that. Just has all the mod cons of a little flat. Now back to the entrance area. And now we go into the engine room proper. This engine room had all been discontinued when I visited. No longer has the foghorn at this station. So everything in this room was basically just museum pieces. Those sort of days it was paraffin vapour.
Yes, paraffin lamps, yes.
Can you explain what those are?
Well, a paraffin lamp was very much like a tilly lamp, only a lot bigger, and the mantle was the size of a grapefruit. The actual paraffin container, it held about 25 gallons of paraffin. Underneath that was a bigger container holding air. It was compressed air, but we never had no machines to to pump it out. We used to pump the air pressure up by hand. You used to have to pump that up maybe 2-3 times a night just to keep the pressure up. That would force the paraffin, a mixture of paraffin and air, up to the actual burner. Bunsen tubes in the burner would keep the actual vaporizer red hot, and the paraffin turned to a gas and came out and burned as a gas in the mantle. Places like the Wolf Rock and Bishop Rock, longships, during a gale, the keepers used to sit with their light all night simply because in a gale and the vibration of the tower, it used to break the mantles. So you would always be whipping on new mantles. Some nights you got through about a dozen mantles.
This is a sector light, shines a red light over a dangerous area. One bulb would be on, one would be standby. And it shows a fixed red light over the danger area. Now we're up to the next level, and this is where the foghorn actually, or the foghorns actually stick out through the wall. There's 3 trumpets up here. As I said, no longer in use. And that's just a selection of the light bulbs, spare bulbs, ready to go. And it's up to the final level, which is the lantern room, where the lens is.
back in those days, I mean, keepers were expected to be the labourers for the mechanics when they came to the lighthouse.
Mm.
And you always used to be assisting the mechanics to strip engines. You had to clean out your water tanks and lime wash them every year. The engine room was washed and polished every day. The lens was polished once a week, and you always found plenty to do. And of course, if you were unfortunate enough to get snow, you had to keep your lantern clear of snow, so you'd spend the whole night out on the gallery, more or less, wiping the snow off the glazing. But all that's long past.
Was that a proud day for you?
Yes, it was, you know.
Did you get to go and get it, or?
Yes, we had it presented by the Lord Lieutenant of Devon on the 13th of May at Exeter.
Yeah.
What makes it, in a way, unique, it's the last BEM that will ever be presented, because of Mr. Major's change in the medal system and everything. And the one at Exeter happened to be the last presentation ever held by a Lord Lieutenant.
And how far off retirement are you now then?
Well, I've got another 2 years yet.
And you'll see it out on this station?
I shall see it out on the station.
Any
I mean,
regrets?
really and truly, this lighthouse and myself, we're due to retire at the same time.
Oh. Any regrets being a keeper then?
No, I've enjoyed every part of it. Every part of every station I've been to.
You must have met some nice old characters in your time.
Oh yes, there are many characters. I've been old keepers. All the old keepers were characters of some sort. And we've had some keepers on places like the Tower Rocks, where two of the keepers were sitting up in the kitchen, about 100 feet up from the sea, hear a tap on the window, and the other keeper come down by rope on the outside.
Not just for fun?
Oh yes, yes. I mean, I've had these tales passed on to me by other keepers, older keepers, you know, that seemed as each generation got more reserved.
Yeah.
Seemed that the wild keepers were more or less around in the 30s. I mean, every keeper back in those days were legends.
Can you remember any old stories?
Oh, I can remember one keeper, man, they used to call him Mad Hicks. He used to go on the roof of the Tower Rocks and do handstands.
Now you said you were at Bull Point when the engine room went over the cliff.
No, I went there after.
So what was the damage like?
Well, terrific, really. And half of the engine room was, well, over the cliff, you know. Yes, and they built this huge, great tower. It was like on stilts there. And they brought machinery in to give a fog seal. Of course, there was no good in the engine room. It was built away from there. One of these compressors, you know, you would start it up and so forth. Yeah.
So they had to move the whole tower as well, didn't they?
Oh yes, they built a new tower in the back there, where it was on a bit of a slope at the back of the where the principal keeper lived, you know. So that was that.